Voting rights. It is the hot button issue for many across this country. For some, it conjures up those memories of protesting in the streets. For others, it means that the browning of America is upon us. And for others, it's just the issue we can't seem to put down. Derek Lewis takes a brief look at the history of voting rights in the U.S.
As advocates push for federal voting legislation, one historian tells me a reason there's a challenge to accomplish this is simply because those in power don't want fair elections.
They're trying other means to prevent democracy from playing out so that they can game the system in order to wield political power. That's wrong. That's fundamentally un-American.
Mark Updegrove works at the LBJ Presidential Library and Foundation. He's studied voting rights for years and its impact on African Americans.
There was systemic voting suppression that prevented them from voting freely and fairly.
In 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act that prohibited racial discrimination during elections.
It is wrong, deadly wrong, to deny any of your fellow Americans the right to vote in this country.
Despite federal legislation, states managed to gain more power.
There was a Supreme Court decision last decade that gutted much of the Voting Rights Act through that preclearance clause that was lifted so states could determine for themselves what was free and fair.
Since then, some states have made it harder for people of color to vote. Today, advocates are fighting again for that right. Updegrove says President Johnson and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would be appalled at what's happening today.
If we don't preserve our democracy, it's not only not good for the United States of America, it's not good for the world, where we are a beacon of hope for many nations who don't have the same rights and privileges and liberties as we do.
In Austin, Texas, I'm Derek Lewis for BNC.
Derek, thank you very much. And joining us now to break it down is Atiba Ellis. He is a professor of law at Marquette University. Professor, thank you very much for being with us. First of all, define the difference, because a lot of people are conflating voting rights and voting access. Now we're talking about voter access, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, in as much as many of the laws that we've seen come up are making it harder to vote. You lose days where you could go vote, but now you can't. You have to suffer burdens in standing in line in order to go vote. And the ID requirements are becoming more and more stringent. Now, voter access is one part of the right to vote, because your right to vote begins when you register and ends when you vote. But part of the challenge is, how much does your vote count against what one might have in another district? Whether the district that you're voting in will give you a fair opportunity to have your voice heard. Whether the structure, even if you comply with all of the voter access, being able to get to the polls, whether the structure will make your vote meaningful, and whether your vote ends up counting amongst all the other votes being cast. So in a sense,
Professor,
it's not
I
just
go back
about...
to what yeah, pardon me, but I go back to what I said in the beginning of our show. This is not your father's America. This is not 1950. This is not 1960. They're not trying to stop us from drinking at drinking fountains, or for that matter, you've got Mitch McConnell, who is married to an Asian woman. You have Clarence Thomas, who's married to a white woman, in a state where they had Loving v. Virginia that banned interracial dating and marriage. We've come a long way as a country. The bottom line is the Republicans don't want blacks to vote because they're voting Democratic, correct?
That is, in one sentence, the problem. And oftentimes they argue, however, that the rules they want to implement are about voting Democratic, and that it's about party and partisanship rather than race. But given the fact that the African-American vote is so strongly leaning towards the Democratic Party, and given some court cases out there which have said the Republican Party in, for example, North Carolina, targeted with, quote, almost surgical precision, the preferences of African-American voters, it seems like it is about race to me. Now, it's fair to say that America today is not the America of 1965 or even 1865. But when the rules become more strict in terms of voting, and those rules tend to hurt African Americans more than other racial groups, then it's repeating the same pattern that we saw in 1912, or the reasons why we passed the Voting Rights Act in 1965.
So is it nowadays based more on cultural ignorance than flat out bigotry like we saw in the 1800s, in the earlier part of the 19th century, the 20th century? Because America has changed. But in the places that you're talking about, the reason they're putting these laws in place is because they just don't understand how people vote. If you think about Florida, Democrats took for granted that Hispanics in Florida were going to vote Democratic. They didn't. In Texas, the number of people that are voting or crossing over party lines are more difficult to define. California, not necessarily the case. Is it that we're just ignorant of how people of color actually live and vote?
Well, I think that to some, it might be an issue of ignorance, right? That some folks want to assume that there is this one way of voting and that not all people would vote the same way. They ignore that fact. But the problem is, with all the talk of voter fraud out there, and a lot of the proponents of these laws from Texas to Florida, as you mentioned, and in other states, they assume that there's this massive voter fraud problem out there. And over the years, as I've seen in my research, they find those problems largely in communities of color. And given that, it seems like the unspoken assumption is that the votes of people of color have to be suspect, and therefore we have to make stricter laws about them. I think that part of that cultural ignorance is that assumption being translated into the law and it being given force by stricter voter ID laws, stricter voter regulations, and overall devaluing the democratic process by thinking there are some people who are worthy to vote and other people have to prove a little more in order to get their ballot access.
Professor, I've got 30 seconds left, but in those 30 seconds, if blacks, like they said in Georgia, get fed up with the Biden administration because he's not getting anything done on voting, do they have another choice?
Given the two-party system, it's hard to find a different choice. But given what the Congressional Black Caucus has said in their press conference yesterday and their stridency about voting rights, I think all representatives who are willing to support the right to vote and to re-engage on the Voting Rights Act and to pass the For the People Act ought to be given the opportunity. The democracy is the value here that we have to protect.
Yeah, we see them coming to the podium on Capitol Hill. So I hate to cut you off. Professor Atiba Ellis, Professor, thank you very much. Let's listen in right now to what is happening. No, this is actually a voiceover. Sorry, my bad. I thought it was actually live. It's not. But I do want to thank you for being with us because you're adding context to an issue that is very, very confusing because people say it's not your father's America. So why are we still being discriminated against? You have given us the background that we need. Professor, thank you very much for being with us.